So fill out your place value chart as we start this new section on decimals. A decimal number is one with a decimal point and numbers written after the decimal. It requires you to know the names of the place values that come before and after the decimal. We've done this before. You've seen this place value chart before. Fill in each blank and remember the word "and" is spoken in place of the decimal points. I already gave you one of them, didn't I? All right, I see y'all are close to being finished, so here we go. Check your own work. At the decimal, we say the word "and." That's how we know where to put the decimal point. I'm going to do the numbers you're more familiar with first. Those first numbers that take the first blank before the decimal, those are in the ones place. Then you bump up to the tens place when you move 2 in front of the decimal. 3 in front of the decimal, big numbers, the hundreds place. Do y'all remember probably in first grade your 100th day of school? I bet y'all did something with 100 items. And then beyond that, really big numbers, the thousands place. Okay, and these just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, when you move behind the decimal to the right of the decimal, you get smaller and smaller and smaller. Isn't that what's happening here? From thousands down to hundreds is getting smaller. From hundreds down to tens is getting smaller. From tens down to ones is getting smaller. So the pattern continues. And as you move farther here toward the right, you get smaller and smaller. So these place value words sound like fraction words. Remember when we were changing fractions into decimals and decimals into fractions? I think we did that already. Didn't we do that already? Maybe not. Maybe we didn't. Maybe I'm confusing y'all with another class. My apologies. So the first place after the decimal is the tenths. Listen to that, tenths. If you were saying tenths in a fraction, you would have some number over 10. These are tenths. Well, as a decimal, the first place after the decimal is the tenths place. After that, we have hundredths. They end in THS when you're after the decimal. So if we were writing something as a fraction, hundredths means the bottom number is 100, some number out of 100. And then out after hundredths, even smaller, is thousandths. Thousand, THS. So thousandths, if you read it and wrote it as a fraction, the bottom number in your fraction would be 1,000. Guys, think about one thing. I don't know, like a candy bar. Think of a big old candy bar. If you divided a candy bar into tenths, 1/10 would not be a whole lot of that candy bar, would it? But it would probably be a whole bite, wouldn't it? If you took a candy bar, like think of those Hershey candy bars that are already in sections. 1/10 of that, you would at least get a bite. But what if you took that exact same candy bar and you divided it into hundredths? You took that candy bar and you cut it up into 100 pieces. Wouldn't each piece be tinier, just like David said? So hundredths is way smaller than tenths. But you're going to get at least a tiny bit. You're going to get the flavor. You're not going to get a whole bite, but you will at least get the flavor of the candy bar, right? If you take that same candy bar and you divided it up into 1,000 pieces, think of how tiny the morsel would be that you got if you got 1,000th of that candy bar. That's hardly enough to even register on your taste buds. So these places after the decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you think of them in their fractional form, you can see why they get so much smaller, so much tinier. Okay, so let's keep going here. Sometimes you'll be asked to compare two decimal numbers to decide if the first one is smaller than. That's what this symbol right here means, that points to the left, smaller than. Okay, so let me read this again. Sometimes you'll be asked to compare two decimals to decide if the first one is smaller than the second one, bigger than the second one, and that's what this symbol means, bigger than, or equal to the second one. And you're familiar with this symbol, the equal sign. So when you're comparing two numbers, that's the only way they could compare. The first one's either smaller or bigger or equal to the first one. So that's one of the things we're going to focus on today to help you get more comfortable with decimals. The easiest way to do this is to line up the numbers on top of each other, making sure to line up the decimals. Let's underline that because that's going to be critical. Making sure to line up the decimals. You can fill in any missing digits at the end with zeros. Then compare each set of digits starting on the left. Let's compare that. Starting on the left. Let's underline that. That's important. Compare each set of decimals and fill in the blank with smaller than, bigger than, or equal to make a true statement. Okay, everybody ready? This first example, we're comparing 82.5 and 82.59. So my suggestion was for you to write the decimals on top of each other, making sure to line up the decimals, the decimal points. So that first one is 82.5. I'm just going to work it over here in the margin. Now, when I write this second number right here, the first thing I'm going to do is put the decimal underneath. You've got to line up the decimal points. Now, I'm going to write 82.59, lining up the digits under each other. So 82.59 has an extra digit, doesn't it?
Yes.
So with this first number, you can go in, there's a missing digit, you can just slip a 0 in right there. Now my instructions say compare each set of digits starting on the left. So we're looking for a difference to see is the first number smaller or bigger or equal to the second digit. So here we go. Comparing the 8s, they're the same, no difference. Comparing the 2s, they're the same. There's our decimal. Comparing the 5s, they're the same. And then we finally come across a difference right here. So is the top number, that's the first number, is the top number smaller or bigger or equal to the second number?
Bigger.
How does the top number compare?
Smaller.
Smaller. The top number would be 0.50. The bottom number is 0.59. If you were thinking money, 50 cents versus 59 cents, this first number is smaller. And that's the symbol that means smaller than. Any questions on that first one? Guys, when you're writing these on top of each other, I want you to always write the first number on top and the second number on bottom. So I'm going to put a little squiggle to separate, and now we're going to do number 2. I'm going to write the first number, 32.41. And when I write this second number right here, the first thing I'm going to put is the decimal number. Okay, before it, I'm going to write 32, and after it, 51. Do you have any missing digits?
No.
No missing digits, so let's compare. 3s are the same, Twos are the same. Oh, there we go. We have a difference. So is the top number smaller than, bigger than, or equal to the bottom number?
Smaller.
Smaller. 4 is smaller than 5. So once again, we have a less than situation. All right, I'm going to stop the video and make another one so they don't get too long.